spying, stealing, murder, and you thought your family has issues. We are the Spy-Fi guys, and this is Alias. Welcome to the Spy-Fi guys, where we cover spy facts, spy fiction, and everything in between. I'm Christian.
And I'm Zach.
And today we are covering the TV show Alias from 2001. I've seen most of the first season of. Zach, what have you seen of it?
I will tell you what I know about this show, which is that sexy Jennifer Garner is very sexy. So I saw commercials, and in the commercials, she is always wearing like a sexy swimsuit or a sexy dress or a sexy something. You know how a few weeks ago we did The Americans, which was my dad's favorite show?
Yes.
Well, apparently Alias was my mom's favorite show.
Interesting. All right.
We will see how it holds up.
All right. Well, let's intro our guest so we can find out what he knows about the show. We have returning guest star Jay.
Hello, everybody. I look forward to having conversations with your mom, Zach, about the show.
By all means, longtime listeners may remember Jay from our coverage of Mission Impossible 1 through 3.
And given that apparently, well, first of all, this
apparently
is
because I'm old.
No, I was going to say because, well, so I figured it was only appropriate we bring back Jay because this is directed by JJ Abrams, who did direct the last Mission Impossible movie we covered, just Mission Impossible 3. And also, apparently, Tom Cruise actually called JJ Abrams and offered a role of Mission Impossible 3 after binge watching the first 2 seasons of Alias.
Wow, that is quite the pedigree.
Before I get into what I'm going to say, Jay, what's your experience with this show?
I watched it since it was on TV the first time. I watched episode 1, and I watched all the way through till, I want to say, halfway through the second to last season. I don't think I made it through the last season.
Okay.
That's still a pretty good run.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Having watched this, Mission Impossible 3, before I watched this movie, it always felt like I just kept going back to that film and just seeing how things that even are just in the pilot definitely influenced Mission Impossible 3. And I will bring them up as we go along.
Yeah, I can see that now that you mention it. It didn't occur to me while I was watching it. But there you go.
It definitely gives off the same vibes in a lot of subsections. A lot of the transitions are very similar, but we'll get into all of that.
Yeah. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get started? Zach, if you want to give us the IMDb plot synopsis.
Here we go. It's a little long. Truth be told, Season 1, Episode 1, the pilot of the show, Sydney Bristow discovers that her job as an agent for SD6, a top-secret division of the CIA, is not what she thought it was. Sydney's father, Jack, also tells her the truth about his work, and she, enraged, seeks help from real CIA and is hired as their double agent under the command of Agent Vaughn. From now on, her job is really simple. She needs to complete her cases at ST6 while reporting her findings back to the CIA.
That's interesting because that's like really just the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, like the last 2 minutes. Make it sound like it's half the episode.
Yeah, but you have to also remember, most of that was probably well written well after the fact.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, at this point, it's still early mainstream internet.
Oh, this is true. 2001.
We did not have these resources to really analyze it. We just strictly had word of mouth and conversations about the show, so we couldn't really dig deep into this capacity. And a lot of the times, those types of summaries are written from a longer perspective of the show.
That's very true, Jay.
Well, as I have recently been informed, the purpose of a pilot is to sell the show. So you certainly need a jumping off point at the end. And this had a really good jumping off point, better than some others.
Wait, someone recently taught you that?
Oh, go back and listen to our Burn Notice episode, Zach, or Jay.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm being slightly sarcastic with that.
Are you, though?
All right, shall we begin with this episode, then? We are doing only the pilot today.
The way you phrased it, can I just say this? The way is that you didn't say that the title of the pilot is Truth Be Told, so it sounded like you were saying, Truth Be Told, this pilot.
100%. I had to double check.
Well, truth be told, we're going to be talking about just the pilot today,
Yep.
which is
Yep.
truth be told.
All right. We start with our title sequence, which is actually, not a lot going on here. It's just like spelling out the letters of Alias, and we get a close up on Sydney being drowned. She's captured by Taiwanese people. She's got red hair.
Yeah, she
Like she,
looks a lot like Lilu from The Fifth Element.
yeah. Starting with this sort of in medias res. Is that how you pronounce that?
Sure.
I'm
I
gonna
also
yeah
hear it in Media Reyes.
in media. I don't know if there's an S in there. Anyways, like with all right, person captured, bad things happening. It took me back to the beginning of Mission Possible 3.
I was expecting record scratch. I suppose you're wondering how I got into this situation.
Which, considering the time period that this was made, would totally make sense.
Yeah, speaking of the time period, the font, the Alias font, is also the X Files font, that like
uh
typewriter.
huh.
So that brought me back.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements to from the X Files that definitely kind of carry over
uh
into
Mm.
this.
Anyway, so they pull her out of the tub that she's being drowned in. They slap her, cuff her to a chair. We get a bunch of footsteps. We focus in on a door, and we smash cut to a door opening. Again, it's like Mission Impossible 3. You had the, opening part where he's getting tortured. You have the credits. I mean, the orders are all reversed. And then you have the smash cut of the opening, and then it was the opening of the fridge, as opposed to the opening of another door. In this case, we transition from that Taiwanese prison cell or whatever that is, being door opening to a school door opening. An old man enters a classroom. I noticed there's not a lot of students here. But it makes more sense because we find out that Sydney, with normal, brown hair, is taking a test, and she's over time, and so that's why there's not that many students here.
Yeah, because most have finished.
Mm-hmm.
This still reminded me of Indiana Jones, right? Where
Fair
he
enough.
begins
Yeah.
out in the field, then he goes to a classroom.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing about the scene where she's tied up, looking back, like originally when I first watched it, I remember thinking, oh, okay, this is good. I'm in. They got me. And then watching it now, having watched like all the Mission Impossibles and everything, and having not remembered what like all the points and hit points of this show,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically this episode, I was like, they're gonna rip off that wig, right?
I also thought it was a wig. Yeah.
That was not my reaction, Jay, I must say.
Because again, I mean, having watched so many of the Mission Impossibles recently,
Mm-hmm.
it just felt right for that to be like, wow.
Okay, Christian, don't get mad at me for jumping ahead, but there's a part where she grabs her
Oh
dad's
yeah. Oh no.
face.
I'm gonna talk about that. Don't worry.
Remember that. Remember that.
It's in my notes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
She is taking her sweet old time, and her professor is a sweet old
Look,
man who allows her to keep on writing.
5 minutes over already, and she's like, as he's in front of her, she's still writing and finishing the essay.
Thank you for letting me finish.
So I have questions about this. So is she
Okay.
like not smart? Because she is smart. Why is she having so much trouble with this test? I don't get it.
It's explained like immediately after.
She's
that-
like, this just isn't my subject or something like that.
No, it's because she's on missions all the time. She doesn't have time to prep.
Ah.
She assumes that she was recruited because she was an A student. Then she had all these other extracurriculars and like her abilities and all that stuff. So she has never had an issue. And it even ties into when you get the whole voiceover where she's having the conversation.
Mhm.
I failed. I got a D and all that stuff. It's because she's never had issues studying, having issues keeping up. But because of her secondary life, she doesn't have that time to actually focus and actually take time to study.
Oh,
Makes
I see.
sense.
Kind of like Spider-Man.
Yeah. Brilliant but lazy.
Do they ever say what she's studying, by the way?
Not in the pilot.
But they do later.
You'll have to watch the rest of this episode.
Yeah. It should be like dance theory.
She thinks she's got a D. She's talking with her boyfriend, Danny, who proposes on the school lawn by like singing Build Me Up Buttercup loudly, very badly.
Okay, what do we think about this, gentlemen? What do we think?
It brought a big old smile to my face.
Okay, Jay is the pro singing. I cringed. Christian, would you do this?
No, I would not.
Okay.
But I'm not him.
Yeah, and it had a very significant meaning to their
Yeah.
relationship.
I will say it was a very interesting way to start the show, the whole show. This is basically still the beginning, and
Uh-huh.
our way to introduce this character.
Yeah, I agree. It gives you the sense that she does have the side of lightheartedness, of
Mhm.
fun, fully engaging in society and her partner and everyone else around. It sees that, and I like the fact that it pans to like everyone else on campus watching it. So she is
Right.
visible. People know her. She is
Mhm.
100% visible and part of this current environment and world, which is unique, I think, a lot because you expect a spy to kind of keep her head down and kind of keep a low profile. But this shows that she rebuts against like the norm, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it sets up the fact that the show is more about relationships rather than necessarily strictly a spy show.
Mhm.
That's true. And also, I noticed that there's WB music, like CW style music. You guys notice this?
Yeah. It's really prominent later on, and we'll get to it.
Yeah, but Jay, you got me thinking. I wonder if there's a contrast where the fiance is loud and the center of attention and loves it, whereas she is like so embarrassed and doesn't. And it's like, don't look at me, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
Okay.
But it also shows and implies the fact that one, she also has a lot of friends and she obviously is very social and can take it. A spy would have been like, knock it off. Like the fact that she's laughing and enjoying and looking about and then making eye contact with everyone shows that she isn't necessarily strictly about
Well,
the whole wall garden.
yeah. The
Mhm.
other observation I have about this scene is she says, "Did you get the Dave Matthews tickets?" Which also dates the show.
What are you talking about? My friends were just talking about getting Dave Matthews tickets. Granted, they're also from this period of time too.
They're the same age.
She says yes, and she goes back to her place, shows off the ring to her friend, reveals that she hasn't told her dad yet, and we also find out that her mother is dead.
And she has issues with her dad.
Yes.
She's like, I don't even know if I want to tell him. But also, I gotta say, once he proposed and she said yes, I was like, something's gonna happen to this guy. There are no TV show protagonists that are gonna get married. At least not for very long.
He's a doctor, which was so basically does JJ Abrams just make his, spy protagonist
Other,
significant others medical professionals because Julia was a nurse, this one's a doctor. It's all variations on a theme here.
It's another very respected profession.
Huh.
respected profession that takes people's lives in
Uh-huh.
hand, risk,
Weird
acceptance,
hours.
and
Danny called her dad to ask for permission. We get a flashback to it happening. Her dad's played by Victor Garber. Welcome sight. And he like chews Danny out.
This is my favorite part. He's just like, why are you talking to me? Why are you calling me? You're gonna do what you want anyway.
Hmm.
It was hilarious. You definitely understand why him and his daughter don't get along so high.
it's not even why are you talking to me? It's do you know my daughter? She would not want you to talk to me.
Yeah.
Knock it off. Are you sure you want to marry? Do you actually know her? Because if she finds out you called me, she's gonna call you an idiot, basically.
Well, it's a sign that he doesn't know her as well as he thinks he does, which is true.
Well, no, because when she talks about that whole thing, like the relationship, she's like, "Wait, what?" Like she understands the fact that that's not a good idea.
Right.
So he does.
This didn't bother me, but you would think that if they're going to get married, he would have talked to her about her dad at least once,
I
right?
mean, he knows enough to find his phone number.
That's true. But not enough to know that her and him are almost estranged.
I assume that he does, but he's also just doing it as a courtesy.
Which is what he gets called out on.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
going to be just your courtesy call that one day is it going to be an antidote to your life that you called me. I'm not part of this nonsense. If
Yeah.
you don't have anything important to talk to me, Cindy's going to hate you for calling me. Go away. Goodbye. Welcome to the family. I hate you. Goodbye.
There you go.
To be fair, he doesn't say I hate you. He just says you're just wasting both of our time.
Yep.
Right.
Welcome to the family. I did like you answer that with welcome to the family. Anyway, so Sydney is walking to a building which is labeled Credit Dauphine. So she gets into an elevator. The operator gets her onto a secret floor. While she's in the elevator, she slips off her engagement ring and gets out into a white room, which scans her.
First time it reminded me of the Matrix, not the last.
Yeah, well, this reminded me of not the first, not the last time of Mission Impossible 3, the IMF headquarters there. Although this one's more dingy looking. Like it is
Yeah.
underground, and it feels like it's like in the basement. Yeah,
Well, I mean, it felt more like a 007
interesting.
because in certain 007 ones, they're in like a darker room in an older environment.
Like in Skyfall. Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Well, there's also some Mission Impossible where their headquarters is in a basement, and it is
Or
very
just not
dingy.
the headquarters, but like their safe house kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever they use.
Actually, no. That remember, MI3, and we're gonna. I told you at the start, we're gonna talk a lot about MI3. Their headquarters is in the basement of the Virginia of Transportation.
Yeah. Which is why I was like, it felt like Mission Impossible, but it also felt like 00 because
Mhm.
I was like, no, that makes sense. Virginia, Virginia.
And I didn't pick up on this, but it is an indication that this organization is not everything it appears to be.
I do appreciate the fact. Oh no, I was gonna say I appreciate the fact that it's like the Virginia-esque feeling, considering CIA,
Mhm.
but it's not really but it's not in the CIA, so it's not at Langley.
Mhm.
Right.
Do we know what city this is supposed to be in?
I don't think they necessarily spell it out in this episode.
Okay.
I would say it's probably not, so it explains why she goes somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay.
So, do you guys recognize her coworker here?
Carl, what's his last name?
Carl something. So
Lumley?
he is the
Is the
voice of the Martian
I knew
Manhunter.
you were gonna say that.
But he's also the Martian Manhunter's dad on Supergirl.
I also knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, where his face is in front of the camera, so you can actually recognize him.
He is also the star of the show Mantis,
Mantis.
which was for one season. It was it was him, wheelchair bound, but he creates a super suit that allows him to become a superhero and smash things. And like, yeah, it's an exosuit that he can.
Huh,
Yeah, he's a
interesting.
superhero.
He is also Isaiah Bradley in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
All right, but now that we've said where he's from, who is he? In this show, he's Marcus, one of her coworkers. He noticed that she's smiling. She's glowing
wait.
almost. Apparently, Sloan, the head of this division, is giving a briefing. Someone named Oscar Mueller was killed by an ambulance. Considered himself a modern day alchemist. There's a race to recover his notes, but they're all gone missing. But one of them has surfaced in Taipei, and it was reported by one of their agents, Antonio Quinteros. The notes are in a in a old language, Demotic. Sydney has to go in undercover at an embassy party, case the building, recon only, no retrieval.
So I like how there's a Q here who's nervous. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a requirement that every gadget guy needs to be nervous. I don't know why.
I mean, the original Q, not nervous. I like the gear that he gives her. RF scrambler disguised as a lighter, which works for 4 minutes. A lipstick can, which also does 3-dimensional scanning. Has a short pulse laser and a grid analyzer. What the heck is a grid analyzer?
It'll break down the environment into a grid so you can measure out distance and
so that's all part of the 3-dimensional blueprint part. Okay.
Yep. So then it'll sync to the GPS so it can get a better understanding of layout.
Okay, that makes sense. I was like, that seems specific. It didn't sound like they were all part of the same thing, so I wasn't sure.
The way he produces the description is very asynchronously expelled. I will say is how I describe it, because it's literally him just like literally just spitting out periods of words that you don't know if they're congruently in sync.
Yeah. Now, this actor looks familiar. I can't place. Well, I know he's in an episode Chuck, but I can't think of what else he's in.
Oh, he's in so many
that
you've seen.
I'm sure I've seen him in other things.
So
X
the
Files, 60 Seconds, Felicity, Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Uh,
uh, Charmed.
oh. Oh, I do remember him on Charmed, actually. Yeah.
Sloan, as soon as I saw him, that triggered memories of commercials. Because he's very distinctive looking. And I remember him from nothing else except this.
Yeah, he has one of those faces that you just go, hmm,
Mhm.
probably double faced. Two
Yeah.
faced, double agent something, or just evil. Okay, let's go.
So we next cut to Sydney running on a track. Is that Bradley Cooper? What's he doing here?
All right. Welcome to Media, Bradley Cooper.
Is this his like first role?
Yeah,
Oh wow.
it's like one of his. Yeah, I believe it is like his first major role in
Huh.
anything.
Crazy. He plays Sydney's friend Will.
More like friend zoned Will. Big
Yeah.
time.
Get wrecked.
I mean, come on, Will. She's been dating this guy for a long time. And they just got engaged. You gotta move on here, buddy. Come on.
Yes, he might be hung up on her, but he is also well. No, his sister set him up on the blind date, so I don't know how willing he is to try to move on. Good question. I don't know.
Well, so my interpretation of that conversation is that he's like a little spectrumy, a little odd.
No,
You,
What?
you guys didn't get that impression?
no.
Not at all.
Okay. I don't really have any notes to back up my theory. That's just the vibe that I got.
Okay.
Because he's like, my sister sent me up on this blind date, but he doesn't seem interested at all. And you guys think it's because he's still in love with Sydney.
Yes.
That's the reason? Okay.
Yeah, completely shunting off that whole. Yeah, maybe cool, but I'm obviously. It's the self-deprecating of. No, it was cool, but you know, I could do better. Maybe wink, wink.
Ugh, that's even worse. I don't know which theory makes him look better.
eh.
I do like his getaway of they just finished. He's topless. He's all heaving, and they're talking, and then she's like, "Hey," and he goes, "Shirt on." I'm gonna run away from my problem,
Yeah,
and
he's like,
immediately just like
I'm gonna take a few more laps.
run away, run away.
Yeah, so that also gives you a hint of what this show will be. That there's emotional, kind of like Chuck, but more serious, emotional, romantic things happening,
I mean,
right?
so does most shows.
I get it because you're expecting like the whole way they advertised it was that the show was a spy show, an
Mm-hmm.
espionage show. So the fact that there was so much relationship building, so much of the interplay, caught a lot of people off guard.
Which
Mhm.
reminds me of a movie there. All the focus on the interpersonal romance caught everyone off guard. Mission Impossible 3.
Yeah, but Mission Impossible 3, it wasn't like 50-50. And this show isn't 50-50 either, but there is just a lot.
I mean, there is a lot of Tom Cruise getting married and all of that in MI3. And his whole reasoning for the last end of it. Anyways, let's get back on track and not the
Yes.
running track. Haha. Terrible joke.
Oh, God.
I would love to be on a running track right now.
So, Sydney is back at her place reading a book on hieroglyphics. Danny's nearby. They start kissing, but Sydney is distracted. She takes him by the hand upstairs, turns up the music, tells him to get undressed and get in the shower.
And he promptly agrees and is like,
Uh,
"Oh yeah, baby, oh
and that's
yeah."
when she blows her cover.
Have you guys seen or read Gone Girl?
No.
No.
I've read the book and seen the movie. They're both good, but there's a part where they do this, where the couple gets
Mhm.
naked and get in the shower. But that's because she's going to confess to murder, and she has to make sure that she's not being recorded. So
Right.
it's
I mean, this is also why she did that, yes.
Yeah, it's a trope that's been forever and ages of you don't want to be recorded, you go into the shower because who records in the bathroom plus there's the shower. But I don't know about you, the shower isn't that loud.
Also, the acoustics in there are always very good. So, if anything, it would make it easier to hear.
Yeah, but the assumption is that there isn't a recording device in the shower. Plus, the steam would disrupt any electronics
Eh,
and all that stuff. But it's mostly the fact that you have the sound of the shower plus the music. and you're recording from outside the door. But I don't know about you, but I can hear people in the bathroom from outside in my living room. If there's someone showering, I go, "Hey, you need a towel?" They can hear me, and I can hear them. Like the
Right.
truth, I don't know. I've been very curious to research where this whole concept came from.
Get the Mythbusters on it.
It's just a unique way because it's in everything. So then it's like, does she just watch a lot of spy shows?
Maybe. Or
Because you
maybe.
assume in her training at some point they go, "Hey, just so you know, showers don't cover up noise."
But here's the question, though, and we'll get to it. What training did she have?
That's true. That's a good point. One last thing, though, is that in Gone Girl, at least, they put their faces really close and speak really quietly. They do
Eh,
not do that here.
no.
That's a little bit of a caveat.
So after that, we go back to the beginning where Sydney is tied up. There's a Taiwanese guy who's inject her with something, but then we go back to them and we see that they do inject her. She gets really groggy and then passes out. And then we get it back within a flashback.
Yes.
There's a lot of flashbacks here, but we get a flashback where Sydney's telling the story of her recruitment, presumably to Danny. So
Right.
someone approached her and said that the government wants to talk to her about a job. Apparently, she fit a profile. She said she didn't feel like she really belonged anywhere, but she needed the money, so she met with the guy. They offered her a job. It's not exactly the CIA. It's a covert branch within the CIA.
So, yes, it is. And they say she's a natural at everything. So here's the thing.
Oh,
Could we
here we
just
go.
get one spy show where the lead spy, Chuck doesn't count because he's not a spy, the lead spy is not like the greatest spy in the universe? Please?
But if you're getting recruited, most oftentimes you are going to be exceptional. Like the fact that they approached her as a freshman in college, she would have to stand out dramatically.
Mm-hmm. Or have some other connections.
Yeah. Well, if this were a comedy show, I would say she's not, in fact, the greatest spy ever. They just led her to believe that she was.
Yeah. I don't even think you need it as a comedy. It's just the fact that they were like, we know someone,
Yeah.
and if things go south, we have something on them.
Yep.
So anyway, if I can finish my rant, Michael Weston was this legend among Russian intelligence. Archer is the world's most dangerous spy.
So he says,
No, that other guy says that. The guy interrogating him in the first scene.
is he the
I also wanted to say really quick in this part, in the college campus, there's a Requiem for a Dream poster on one of the bulletin boards, which also dates the show.
She asks after a few, I forget if it was weeks or months, if she could test for agent training. She advances really quickly as she's telling Danny this is a remote location where there's a bunch of machinery around them.
Yeah, it's like an oil rig.
Yeah. He's still very incredulous. He needs time. She tells him that he can't tell anyone, and she's got her trip coming up, so she'll call him when she gets back.
And it's San Diego, right? Wink, wink. I know it's not San Diego. How dare you lie to me again?
It's a sign of things to come.
Yep.
Is it?
Well, also in this part, she says to him, I wanted to find someone to give my life meaning,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very interesting character choice, I must say.
Oh, so can you elaborate?
So, assuming she wasn't just straight up lying, it means that she didn't feel like her life had meaning before him, which is very interesting considering she's in a very hard driving, dedicated profession.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so it's the reason why she joins them. So she doesn't have the profession yet. That's the reason why she joined it, because she wanted a mission. She wanted something to make sense and make important in her life. She had already lost her mother. Her father was basically disinterested, disengaged from her life. So
Mm-hmm.
she had nothing, no real major ties or anything to make any reason to make anyone feel proud or make anything of her life, because she had nothing to prove. So the fact that suddenly someone goes, "Hey, you want to join the CIA and save the world?" allows her to finally find someone who will give her the approval that she's always seeked in life.
Mm.
Okay, well, your answer prompts another question, which is how long has she been doing this?
Since she was a freshman and she is now a grad student.
Yeah, so she's been doing it for a while. She didn't develop any meaning in her life from that.
No, so
No.
again,
Oh.
I think the phrasing is why you're getting confused because she said she joined them because she wanted something to
Mhm.
make meaning in her life. So she stayed because that gave her and fulfilled her. But
Right.
she, right?
But now she's saying this to Danny.
Yeah. So outside of work, she finally found something other than work that makes life worth living because all she had was work. She only had work up to that point.
I must not have picked up on that.
Or you just had a very good life.
No comment.
Wow. Sorry, Mom.
Fancy.
I know you love Alias, but hey.
She's on the plane with Marcus. We find that apparently Sloane does not like that she's still in grad school. And we also find out that Marcus's wife doesn't know the truth about his job. She asks if, does it really, after all these years? And she's like, lying must get easier with time.
And he goes,
Hmm.
I do it for her. Interesting that she always sits middle now. Now that I'm thinking
Oh,
about
did
it,
she say middle?
she sat next to him.
Interesting. All right. Well, so they arrive in Taipei. There's a big party. Sydney and Marcus are mingling. Danny calls Sydney, gets her answering machine. Remember those?
Aw. I had the exact same answering machine.
Marcus collapses as a distraction as Danny is leaving a message. Sydney sets her watch for 4 minutes. Marcus activates the lighter, which knocks out all of the cameras. And Sydney goes to do her recon. Danny is still leaving his message. He's clearly drunk. And as he's leaving the message, she mentions that she's a spy. And as soon as that happens, listening stations pick it up. Someone hears the voicemail, takes off his headset, and goes to report to someone.
He never actually says that he knows that she's a spy. He only mentions the fact that he knows she is living.
He says
Does,
he says spice.
does he?
No, I don't have the exact quote, but he says
No.
something like, I know you have a crazy job. I know things are wild. This world is dangerous no matter what we do. Spies live a dangerous life. I understand, and I'm here for it.
Well,
Or something like that.
I'm intrigued.
starts with the whole thing about children, and he's I want children, and sometimes, yeah, he says spies.
Yeah.
He does say spies.
He does say spies, but he doesn't say you are a spy.
Yeah.
Enough to
It's
say it.
implied.
It's strongly
implied, but it's not a direct.
Okay.
It's enough that reasonable you could brush it off if you need to.
So this scene was interesting for a couple of reasons. It shows there's another side to Danny than just Mr. Handsome boyfriend doctor man who's just so loving and just loves Sydney so much. He just loves her. So that was cool. I actually liked it. But then also this wiretap. So here's the question, gentlemen. Do you think ST6 was tapping his phone because he was dating Sydney? Or was it like a mass surveillance and they were just looking for the word spy?
I think they were tapping his phone or tapping her phone.
Yeah. Her line was tapped, not his.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because eventually, because they get the recording.
Yeah. So Sydney is picking a lock, and we see her trying to get through the door. Sloane gets a call, is informed about the voicemail, says he wants the audio, like we were talking about. Sydney gets through the doors, is scanning the environment, and the whole time she's scanning the environment, basically the blueprint. But as she goes into this place, she sees it's a lab, finds the tech that was in the document that surfaced, and doesn't have enough time to grab it, and she has only 2 seconds left before the cameras go back up. She bolts upstairs. The cameras go back online before she gets all the way up. So they see
Good.
Sydney coming up the stairs.
Yeah, just like Mission Impossible, things don't always go perfectly, which I like.
If she hadn't gone for the close up, she would have been just fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's
but
right.
she never would have known it was there.
Yeah, but that's not her issue. She's just an overachiever.
The Taiwanese guy who injected her, in the future, but
Right.
previously, who I think is like the head of security there, finds her. She pretends that she was lost, that she was looking for the bathroom, which is the go-to excuse.
You have the classic, but it's funny.
It's funny because it is the classic.
Right.
He lets her go. Sloane is talking to someone saying that Daniel found out about Sydney. and it's revealed to be Victor Garber, who I don't remember his character's name actually.
Mr. Bristow. I also wanted to
Mr.
say that
Bristow,
the
yeah.
pie joke was good. There's just enough humor in this show to keep things different, a little bit different, but without having it be too silly. Like it's
Mhm.
still a pretty serious show overall.
Yeah,
Yeah, his name is Jack Bristow in this.
Jack. Thank you. All right.
It's always Jack. It's
I named you Jack, a hero's name.
Although thinking about Jack and this actor just reminds me of Titanic.
Yeah.
we're down with that sinking ship.
Zach doesn't get because he still hasn't seen Titanic.
Hey, neither have I.
What?
Yeah.
What? Jay,
Ha!
you've never seen Titanic either?
No.
Well,
What?
speaking up on Christian J. Anyway, Victor Garber will always be Professor Stein to me.
Hold on, Jay. We're gonna need to talk about this later, but not during this episode.
But it's interesting because this scene is interesting because you get Sloane talking about what he finds out, and Jack goes, "Oh," and then Sloane like genuinely is like, "Sorry, you just lost. You're going to be losing your future son-in-law," and he's like, "Yeah, shit happens," and it's like, but it's not like you can see that there's a certain amount of detachment, but still a little bit of remorse. But you get the sense that he is a no nonsense agent. You can tell that he is willing to do what he needs to do. And he even says at some point, you know me.
Yeah.
And so it sets up the fact that he is renowned for his ability to detach and do whatever, ever is needed for the agency, which is interesting because you get the nice Marcus who's like, yeah, hey, I have a wife. Oh, this earbud, it hurts my ears. And then you got the bumbly Q who's like, but it does 4 minutes. Takes 43 pictures, but I want 47 because it's prime. You get Will. So it just sets up a very serious, and it reinforces the whole conversation with the son-in-law.
Yes. What I was going to say about this. So, yeah, I was wondering Victor Garber. Now, I wasn't expecting him. It would have been funny if Victor Garber was like, yeah, I never liked that guy. He called me up to ask if I could propose to his daughter.
So, because this is like one of the first early times where I'm introduced to Victor Garber growing up, like I've always had this image of Victor Garber in my mind,
Okay.
like a semi-serious, kind of emotionally detached. So, like throughout his whole career, like this portrayal has always stayed in my mind. So then you get to like Legends, and you get to
where
like,
he's much more goofy and all that. Yeah.
yeah, like so every time I see him, I'm just like, wait, what? And it just throws me off every time.
Yeah, kind of like how Hugo Weaving is always going to be Agent Smith.
Or Elrond.
It's the same period for me. The Matrix.
This is also true. This is 2000. 2001.
It's the same exact same time. So
this
like
is when
these have mentally formed into my mind in college.
It's all the same spot. But yeah, next is the big scene. This is the best part of the episode right here.
This is the
Is
best.
it?
Yes, this is the big twist.
Please continue.
She comes home and finds Danny dead. What? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. She works for the CIA. The CIA doesn't kill their own people's spouses? What is going on? You guys didn't have that reaction?
I mean, I had a feeling he was dead.
So what I thought was going to happen was that he was going to have been a spy the whole time working for the bad guys, and then she was going to have to kill him.
Oh, so that was what your theory was at the beginning. Okay, all right. So, yeah, no, I was definitely picking up dead vibes from him as soon as he said the spies and that. I know he's a gunner.
I expected a car accident, something very clean and simple, considering it's her dad doing it. The fact that he left the body in the apartment kind of felt real messed up. Yeah, like, hey, honey, yeah, you screwed up, so I left you a present.
I mean, it's totally something the bad guys would do, which, as it turns out, they are the bad guys. And I am not ashamed to admit it. I totally did not see that twist coming, that she was actually working for the bad guys.
All right. So Sydney, like with Danny's blood still on her clothes, drives over to Credit Delphine, goes in, sees Sloane, is like, "What did you do?" And I might ask the same of you. She's obviously pissed. He won't let her out of the room and says that, McCullough needs to see her. And McCullough is like the polygrapher and asks her about SD6, asks what she revealed, asks a lot of questions.
So, I gotta say, in covering our real life traitors, like Robert Hansen, so he betrayed the FBI for a variety of reasons, according to our sources way back then.
Uh-huh.
One of which is he felt like he wasn't getting promoted fast enough. Can you imagine if the FBI killed his wife? It seems like a great way to get people to betray you or to otherwise try to
Yeah.
undermine your organization. Just manufacture huge grievances.
Yeah, but if your life is the agency, then you come to terms with the fact that you screwed up.
Yeah, it's like a whole crazy mind game, which I did kind of like.
Going to those questions, I like the fact that they're like, hey, who are you? Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
The one question that
Oh.
always screwed with me was the question of, so if you know people or your friends break the law, is it appropriate to turn them in?
Hmm.
Now I have to ask, are you rats?
Yes.
If you're an agent,
Hmm.
what do you think they're expecting from you?
Oh, that's a good
This
question.
is why it always screws with my head
Like,
because
do they
coming
watch?
as an agent,
Did they ask her that question in the
yeah,
episode?
yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
The second to the last question they asked, they're like, "So, do you think it's appropriate to, if you are caught, to turn or to report on your compatriots or your partners or something like that?"
Oh, well, that's a different question.
Is it?
Christian, maybe I misheard Jay. I thought your original question was if your friend breaks the law, do you tell on them?
Yeah, it's the same question.
No, it's not the same question because if you and your friend are undercover serving your country in a foreign land,
But that's the whole point. That's the point. They're asking this specific question. If your companions screw you in this situation, you're an agent. Do you think it's appropriate and would you turn on your friends? Do you
Hmm.
think it's a good thing? So that's my question to you.
really you're watching this show on a different level than me.
Are you going to rat on your friends as an agent?
As an agent, no. If they were criminals, yes. If they were agents, no.
No. If your friends are criminals and you are an agent, would
Oh,
you rat on your friends?
well, let me go grab a
Yes.
book called Fair Play by James Olson. Maybe he will address this exact circumstance. I would presume in that very specific circumstance, you do whatever is best for the mission, right?
Do you?
If it's best for the mission, yeah.
What if it's just in general? They're like, hey, we suspect your friends broke the law, and and you're an agent.
This is such a very specific set of circumstances.
I don't think it's a very specific. I think it's just a very interesting way they. I would recommend you rewatching just that section
Okay.
and listen to the exact wording because it really messed with me when I first heard it the first time, and it messed with me again this time. I was like, because it comes from an agent's perspective, but they're not. Those people aren't agents, or are they agents? It's a very open question, so you have to come to terms in interpretation.
The one that actually got me thinking there was, which I was like, that's an interesting, very specific question. Is like, have you ever had, um, had an enemy? I don't remember what term he used, but like an enemy who was so clever that you wanted them to escape.
That's almost the exact wording.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
like, were you ever pursuing a criminal that was so clever? You thought they deserved
Wow.
to escape or
Something
something
like
like
that.
that.
I was like, that is
Yeah.
an interesting question. I was like, that is the thing where if you're chasing them, you kind of admire them, like that was very clever, kind of thing. Like,
You kind of want to see it succeed because then you're
yeah,
like, "Oh, that was a great idea."
one of the earliest like spy museum parties that I went to, I remember I don't remember who these people were, but it was a Russian agent who defected. But before he defected, he had been, running agents in the US. And next to him was the FBI agent who had chased him during those days, and now they're like good friends.
It's like Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah. It's got to be interesting. Like, I'm sure you guys have stories of like, oh, you oh,
Catch me
I'm
if you can.
chasing, yeah, basically that. So yeah, seems like most of recent articles I've read about that whole thing says that apparently Frank Abagnale like made up all of it, that
Yeah.
whole story, which is a great movie, but not what we're talking about here today.
It's a great story. Yeah. Who cares if it's not true?
When Sydney is done with the polygraph, she is like staring at Sloane, talking to someone. There's a close up on the lips. I swear, I thought she was lips, with
Uh,
just like in Mission Impossible.
I'm pretty sure the implication is that she is reading the
Mhm.
lips. So she understands the fact that she's being ratted out.
Uh, building, she sees that her car has been towed.
It's just
Womp
adding
womp.
insult to injury.
Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't raining on her there.
And Alanis Morissette isn't playing in the background.
Which would have fit with some of the music choices here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'll get to the music later.
Yeah, right. We will, right? We got to talk about that. Anyway, so back to when she's getting interrogated in Taiwan. So the head of security wants to know who she's working for. She says, "All right, write this down. EMETIB. Reverse it. Bite me."
It was so good. It was so good.
Again, a very much a 90s. This is something people would say in the
Uh,
90s. Was bite me. I'm surprised you didn't tell him to eat my shorts.
That's too, that was too hard to spell out.
yeah. So she says she's got nothing to lose, and he is given a case with dental tools. That nope, you've got a few things to lose still.
Yeah, that was
And
a good
we
comeback.
cut back to Daniel's funeral. We see all the people. I don't think we see her father, but we see pretty much all the other people, including presumably Daniel's parents. We see Will there. We see someone with pink hair talking to Will, apparently his
That's the
sister.
sister. Right.
Which felt really weird, their interaction. Will and his sister, like, no,
Yeah,
kiss, kiss.
because I
You're like,
had no idea who that was. So I was like, she's like wearing like
never mentioned.
fishnets.
Yeah, never mentioned, never
Yeah,
brought up ever again. Like,
he mentioned that his
we
sister
get to
brought
that. We
like
get that.
yeah.
Yeah, we get to that. But like at this point, it's like this rando hug,
Mhm.
kiss, goodbye. Definitely doesn't fit in. Stands out like all hell, and
Yeah,
then it's just like,
that's weird.
what?
Very strange choice, yeah.
I mean, there was the drop line about his sister setting him up with someone. I guess that's to introduce that he has a sister, but that didn't connect the dots for me until later. I was like, who is this person with the pink hair?
Yeah. And there's a part where you see him playing with a little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What?
I thought that was interesting because one, Danny is a pediatrician.
Ah.
Two, he keeps
Yeah.
talking about how he wants kids
Uh
throughout his whole diatribe. And then there's Will playing with kids.
huh.
Little parallels happening here.
Yeah.
It's true, but you don't need it.
No, 100%. It was unnecessary. But it was very interesting to see that they decided to show some parallels in that
Yeah.
capacity.
Yeah. At this point, I
So
have a note. There's still a half an hour left. I thought we were almost done.
right?
Remember, it's a pilot, so pilots typically are longer because they need to like give the whole story that they want to expand upon in the season.
I mean, yes, that's true, but I just feel like the emotional climax is now, right? So
No,
it feels like the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
I guess not.
Not really. Also, Jay, I think we need a line. We'll grab that audio and then grab everything that I told him in Bird Notice. Line that up. It'll be exactly the same thing.
I still won't agree.
We go to Sydney drinking wine next to her bed. She's listening to the answering, re-recording it, so it's just her. Doesn't have Danny in it.
Mhm.
as she adds in the thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, that was so sweet. It really was. It was very touching.
I didn't notice that she says thank you there.
Yeah, because you hear the old message right before,
Yeah.
and the last thing is, she meant to say thank you, and
Oh,
then
that's right.
she re-records and she takes a beat and she goes thank you,
Hmm.
and then she ends it.
Interesting. Didn't notice that. Didn't catch it. That's a good catch. All right, so back to her class.
Right.
She, as the old guy is lecturing, Sydney gets a page. Remember pagers? Who had a pager? I had a pager. I know Jay, you had a pager.
Not
I had a
me.
two-way pager
Oh, fancy! I just had a one-way pager.
with the keyboard and everything
What?
because it had AOL Instant Messenger.
It's
Really?
practically just a
Wow.
phone.
Well, it was pre-cell. It was right when cell phones came out. They had instant messenger on
Some weird
pages
hybrid
instead.
technology. Yeah.
I
Interesting.
loved that thing because I sat in math class just on IM. This is right when like AOL IM came
Oh,
out.
I
Like
am. Yeah,
was
I
very
saw that.
popular. So in college at this time, you either had a landline or you
Hmm.
messaged people on AOL IM. So none of us used our phones. We strictly messaged and got a hold of each other through AOL
Hmm.
IM, Instant Messenger.
Hmm.
So like if I wanted to coordinate friends, I would not call, I'd send a IM. And if
Right.
you weren't at your computer, you're screwed. But this allowed me to always be in contact with my friends because I went to a tech college, so we're always around a computer.
Fair
So it was
enough.
super ezy. But we were never on our phone.
Did you call it AIM or did you call it
Oh, AIM.
AIM?
No, AIM.
Okay, because there are people, I will not name
Weird people.
who call it AIM.
Okay, no. It was AIM and ICQ.
ICQ. Oh
I
gosh.
never used that, but I did use it.
I still know my ICQ number.
Anyways, we're getting distracted again. We're getting nostalgic for this era. So she gets a page that says Sloan 911. After class, Marcus finds her. He says that Sloane's impatient. They gave her month 3.
There's been a time jump. It's now 3 months from the
Yeah.
previous scene.
FTL is like apparently one of the rival organizations. They finished building the Mueller device. So Sydney goes to have dinner by herself at a restaurant. She's watching a couple at a table nearby, being sad.
Aw, so sad.
Walks back to her car in the garage, gets in the car. As soon as she gets in, I thought there was going to be someone in her back seat. That's what I was
That's what I thought.
for.
Yeah, the way it was angled, the camera angle made it look like someone was gonna just come out and like
Hmm.
cut her throat or
I
something.
appreciate the upgrade from her old school
Oh,
80s SUV
Yeah, what was that?
beast to a nice F-150. I think it was F-150 to
Was
a
it?
brand new truck,
Yeah.
which was
truck.
bright red pickup
Yeah,
truck. So it was like, oh, insurance paid off.
There you
yeah.
go.
June from Night and Day would be proud.
Yeah. So when she does get in the car, she sees a laser sight, and someone shoots like a machine pistol at her.
Yeah, it was like a micro Uzi or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. I thought it was interesting, the fact that you could see it like underneath like the windowsill. The
Mhm.
truck is like 7 inches
Yeah,
higher than where the gun would be. So how does like they're like doing the gangster like over the
It's not
shoulders?
like they're on. Well, here's the only way this works, and I know it's not true, but I'm gonna retcon in my mind. It's one of those angled garages.
Okay.
it definitely did not look like that, but we'll pretend it
That
was.
is all hell, but in my mind, that's the way it works.
Hmm.
No, I get it. I was like, wait a minute.
Okay, here's my theory: the guy's standing and shoots, and then gets in the car immediately before the camera can pan
No,
over
he's
to
in
him.
the car as he
He's
shoots.
already in the car. They show the gun before they show the laser.
Oh, that's bad. Then.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, so she gets out of her car, tries to get away. She calls her roommate and says, I don't know
Oh,
if my
my phone.
ringer is working. Can you call me back? So uses the ring to.
The Nokia ringtone.
Yeah,
God, that ringtone haunts my life.
haunts your dreams. I like how if she had a smartphone now, she could just use a timer.
Yeah.
Set the timer to 20 seconds.
I mean,
Throws
those
it.
had timers already, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
But they
The
wouldn't.
timer sound would be very distinct
It's
from
very.
a
Yeah, no,
call.
it's because of that ringtone was very
In
distinctive.
2001, everyone who had a cell phone had the Nokia probably, and they had the exact same ringtone. So you immediately
Uh,
know it's a cell phone rather than any other technological device.
Not to
So
right.
it's
mention, they were so hard to use. It's probably easier just to ask someone to call you back than like figure out how to set the alarm.
I mean, I
Yada
knew how to
yada
do
yada.
that on my Nokia.
Well, being shot at.
Well, I don't know about being. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Distraction is able to get a drop on the assailants. I thought her kicks or her stunt woman's kicks looked pretty good, and then I noticed that at one point, like one of the guys who was attacking her, like a tornado kick. I'm like, whoa, dude, it's a good kick.
It was 2001. The Matrix was still very popular. Karate fights.
A car pulls around with her father in it.
Daddy.
Yeah, I was about to say that, Jay. Thank you. She says "daddy," which feels wrong considering their relationship? Any thoughts?
I mean,
Not
it might
really.
be a different relationship, but
Oh no, don't go there, Jay.
Yeah, Jay, you had to do that, didn't you?
I did.
I would say this is a family-friendly podcast, but that's not true.
It's not.
Definitely
Hey,
not.
it's family friendly still.
Not when Jay's around.
Nope. And not after that one episode Jack of all trades about the erectile dysfunction.
Oh God, that's
There were
right.
even many
Forgot
others
about that.
before that.
Yeah.
Anyway, she goes, "Daddy," and he yells at her that she needs to trust him. Blah blah. They see the car. She jumps in. He pulls out a handgun, and she's like, "Daddy, what?
She's like,
What?"
oh my gosh, you have a gun. It's like amazing. You think she hasn't been a spy for the past 5 years. Or
Yeah, but she
whatever.
didn't expect her dad to be a
Yeah,
spy too.
he was a desk jock and some scientific.
He sells airplane parts.
Yep.
Yeah, the gun being a thing is totally. I would have been more surprised by the driving. The fact that he
Uh,
can do a quick 180
Mhm.
into a reverse into all that, I would have been like, "Put on your seatbelt, honey." It was like, "What? Wait, excuse me?
stunt driver.
How dare you? Give me that gun." The fact that she doesn't demand the gun from him
Mhm.
caught me off guard. I was like,
That's true.
"You're the spy.
Yeah.
You want the gun in your hands. Why are you letting Daddy deal with it?"
So he shoots one of the people chasing them who's in another car. Says that the agency doesn't trust her anymore. He reveals that he also works for SD6, and says, you got to go this place and this place. You go to
Get in the car.
Switzerland. Yeah. This is when she feels for the mask to make sure it's actually him.
But they never talk about that they use masks ever.
Eh.
If you haven't seen a Mission Impossible movie, it just looks like she's just grabbing his face for no reason. I mean, like, I figured it out, but I am an informed viewer.
Are you?
Yeah.
But at this time, I mean, you still want to be like, are you real? Like, it's the
It could
whole
be that too,
idea of,
yeah.
are you a real person? What are you doing?
Okay, so do they use masks later?
I will not say. Watch the
I'm
season.
not going to watch. Just tell me, please.
No. Watch the season.
Okay, so the thing is, something I wanted to also mention is that this is a JJ Abrams show, but unlike
Yeah.
certain other JJ Abrams properties, it's not endless mystery boxes. There are some mysteries enough to keep you invested, but it's not like a million.
What I know of this show.
Watch the show.
I'm just talking about the pilot, okay?
Okay, fair enough. That's true.
This one thing is like a tiny little thing. You blink and you miss it, but it's a mystery, and I assume it is explained later, but if Jay won't tell me.
Or it could be like the rabbit's foot.
Which is never explained.
Uh-huh.
That is also classic JJ.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 100%.
He reveals that a decade ago, a pool of agents went rogue. They were known as the Alliance of 12. And then the big reveal, SD6 is a branch of the Alliance, not of the CIA. And she's been lied to this whole time. All the junior, lower level agents are lied to.
I'm the enemy?
But here's the thing. How does she know he's telling the truth?
Because
She
it's
does.
Daddy.
I mean,
But she doesn't like it, her dad, really.
the fact that he knows that he knows about SD6, he knows about the Alliance of 12, he knows all this stuff.
He just pulled amazing driving stunts,
Uh-huh.
could shoot the hell out of people. Like,
And SD6 did kill her fiance and almost tried to kill her.
Yeah, there's that too.
yeah,
That's
there's a
all.
lot of things play towards making this a reasonable discussion for
Uh-huh.
whatever a reasonable discussion is at this point.
Reasonable is a word. Let's see.
Yeah, so there's also a part where he says, "Why do you think you've never been to Langley?" My initial reaction was to scoff. But then I was like, well, if she's in the next level covert group that's like so super
she
secret, no one ever knows about it.
Farm or anything, yes.
Yeah, so I buy it. I didn't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
It is all good.
Anyway, so we go back to the torture scene from the very beginning. The head guard is about to pull some teeth. She's one last time. Who do you work for? She doesn't give him an answer. Gets her teeth pulled.
Can you start from the back, which is great.
That was like crazy. That part was, I didn't even talk about it. It was out of control.
I appreciate the fact that she's like, don't mess up my veneers.
yeah,
Go
right.
from the back. I want to still look good.
So we go to see Will at work. He works at a newspaper, seemingly.
Yeah. He's a journalist. They say
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
He gets a note from Sydney that says, "I'm on the roof." She says she
Yes,
needs his help, needs to borrow one of his sister's credit cards and her
at a
passport.
$3,000 limit minimum
Hmm.
that she'll pay back.
So I guess this is why they had the sister earlier, just so
Yep.
she had the bright red hair.
Yeah.
But then I'm also kind of like, so she's the one fictional spy who doesn't have a shoebox full of passports and credit cards ready to be used at a moment's notice.
Well, she's been burned, so she can't
Yeah.
use any of the things that the
Michael
agency
Weston
gave her.
also doesn't have any of that.
Yeah,
Okay, she hasn't been burned yet though. So this was
she won her.
confusing.
No, the agency sent agents to kill her.
But then at the end, she comes back to them and they're like, welcome back.
Because she did the classic Ethan Hunt. Oh, you think I'm accused of doing something, so no, I'm gonna do it and actually pull it off and bring it back to you.
And prove I'm better and you need me. But yeah, at this time, the assumption is all of anything that the agency has given her is burned and she can't rely on anybody or anything
Hmm.
internally to her life. She has to depend
Yeah.
on external resources.
Okay. Yeah, I got some of that. It just
Oh my God.
wasn't so super clear exactly what was going on between her and the agency.
I mean, they sent people to kill her. How much more clear do you need to be?
And Daddy specifically said if you don't get on that in that car and fly away, the agency is going to burn you to the ground, basically.
Eventually.
No,
Like
immediately.
imminently. Okay, fine.
Uh huh.
I did think it was funny how she's like, I need to take your sister's passport. Couldn't she just take anybody's passport and doctor it? Because she's a super spy.
Well, so here's the thing. So she goes into the gas station bathroom, dyes her hair, and adds the mole to her passport into her own face. I like that because she's so distinctive looking. People are gonna focus on the hair and maybe the mole. They're not gonna really pay attention to the face.
Yeah,
Uh,
That's why you pick that person.
yeah. I really appreciated this fact. The fact that one, it's very low sophistication. It's
Hmm.
strictly taking a artist pen and drawing a little mole on the passport because who's going to on
Yeah.
a passport? It
mm,
just looks like it works. She doesn't have to rip it up, worry about any of that stuff.
Uh-uh.
And then she just kind of has to do this because, like you said, it's a very distinct. People remember very specific markers on people's faces. They don't
Hmm.
go, "Oh, it's blah 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 with hair this like." They go pink hair, mole. And that's all it is. Like
yeah.
those are the things that stand. So I really appreciated the fact that she went low key, but very specific with the
Hmm.
mole.
Now, like, it was a good, like, also when she was interacting with the gate agent, it was really like making her focus on the hair and all and the makeup and everything, and not on what her face looked
And very personable.
like.
So like they connect at a whole different level rather than just customer. Okay, this customer had a wall. This customer had this. Oh, talk, and wanting to make this person wanting to make Sydney succeed.
Yeah, I wanted to try to help her out. Usually, when you see spies go through checkpoints like this in the movies, they're just like, yes, no. Like,
Very not, yeah,
yeah,
very low key. The fact that she went overboard to make it more personal, to make that connection in case something went wrong,
Hmm.
they have that connection to make that little extra effort, which was perfect in this situation.
Oh yeah.
I get the impression that this is what the show is like her with crazy hair, crazy costumes, up to crazy things.
Why is pink hair crazy?
It's unusual.
She lands in Taipei, changes into an all black outfit. She's about to pick a lock on like an older car when someone approaches. She stops. They have a nicer car. They have a, was it a Jag?
Mercedes, I want to say.
I feel like it's a no. I think it is a Jag because like there's like when she opens the door, there's a big prominent thing about the Jaguar security on like the window.
Oh, maybe I don't
Oh, I didn't see
really
that.
recall.
That's another little bit of nice humor.
Yeah.
Going back to for a hot second
Oh
of
yeah. Go ahead.
the changing into the black outfit and everything. This also is to Zach's point of
Is
the
the
Matrix
show?
feel. No, the Matrix feel because the agents are all wearing like kind of sort of baggy black suit tuxedos with black ties.
Yep.
Yeah,
She changes and like the people that she fights are wearing long black trench coats. She ends up with a black trench coat and all black. It's yeah, so like it just keeps tying back into it. And I thought that was Because when you first started to talk about the Matrix, I was like, okay, wait till we get to this part.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so she goes into the building, she breaks in, she gets back down to the lab.
Can we talk about her ability to pick locks now?
Well, I was about to say, well, okay, sure. Let's talk about it.
What?
What?
Breaks her lockpick?
Yeah,
She's not perfect. She's not Joanna Dark.
that's a reference,
Yeah, thank you.
Very specific reference.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, like she can do lots of cool things. I like the part where she climbs the wall. That was like another really good part. But she's not perfect at picking locks. She sometimes screws up and gets caught. Yeah,
Yep,
she just
but-
get caught somehow.
Like the whole time she's doing it, she's like manhandling and like, I'm like, what are you? Oh, oh.
Yeah.
I appreciated her scaling the wall and all that stuff, but then like, meh, 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 meh. And it's funny because in earlier in the episode, you see her picking a lock too, and she's very delicate, very like very precise. But now she feels the urgency behind it, like she needs to this to do to
Yeah,
Prove
Prove
her.
herself.
circumstances are different. This isn't just another day at the office.
yeah, and it showcases that she's a human being, which
Yeah.
is a bigger part of the whole episode. That she is a person who feels stress. She's not the perfect agent because she breaks regulations and all that stuff. But yeah, I was just like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You have time." Oh,
Yeah, she also gets surprised by just this random guard.
Well, yeah. Well, because she's panicking about the broken lockpick, and then the guy like sneaks up on her and knocks her out. And then I think this is the point where we're finally caught up to the beginning
Yes.
again, like Mission Impossible 3. Pretty much to the climax of it. That's when you're finally caught up with the stuff that happened in the beginning,
Yep.
yeah. Welcome to a 45 minutes ago.
right? The head of security tells her that he gave her a pill that would stop the pain, but it'll wear off in 2 hours, and it's been almost 2 hours, so she has a choice: more pills, or we'll pull another tooth.
I think you mean the red pill or the blue pill.
Uh,
Oh,
Gets him to like come really close, headbutts him, flips over him with the chair, and knocks him out.
So I think this was how Black Widow
Yep.
escaped in the Avengers movie.
Yep.
yes.
Very much so.
So, something I'm wondering, in the next bit, she's about to kill a lot of Taiwanese people in very gruesome ways. So
Yeah.
my question is, if she's working for the bad guys, doesn't that make these guys the good guys?
Eh,
And if it's not that black and white, then maybe SD6 are not as bad as we're led to believe. Like, was all that stuff they said about the Alchemist true or not? You know,
It's all the lens of perspective and intentions.
I'm just saying, if I were her, I wouldn't have murdered all these people without at least trying to ascertain what was.
well, okay, she definitely kills the head of security, I think. Or no, she doesn't.
Definitely shoots the next room. She does not kill the security.
That's
She
right,
just-
because she cuffs him to the chair and stabs him.
Yeah, he's still alive when she leaves, but she definitely shoots a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did like how she like breaks the uses it like in a scream of stick.
hmm Do you like the dual wielding? This was the biggest Matrix.
That is very Matrix, yeah.
Very 90s. I remember dual wielding was huge. Halo 2. Wow, wow, wow.
So she
Golden
shoots the
Eye.
door open to the lab, sees the Mueller device. There's a floating red ball. Is like trying to unhook the wires for it, but when she does, the ball is in.
Right.
Did you expect anything like when you see it like fall and pop, or like as you saw it floating? Did you expect like anything out of that whole situation?
I mean, it's a JJ Abrams thing, so there's always some sort of red, floating material like in like red matter in Star Trek, or
Nice.
was there anything in Force Awakens?
Force Awakens, no.
I feel like the rabbit's foot is like a floating red thing inside like a biohazard thing, isn't it? I actually don't know. I don't remember what a rabbit's foot looks like now.
Yeah, Jay, this part did strike me as a little bit weird, but at this point I was just along for the ride.
Yeah, I just assumed like it was a device that like if she disconnected, it would blow up or something would happen, and which is why it took 2 minutes for her to unclip the one wire.
Uh-huh.
I was like expecting her to like drop it and grab it or do something the first time I saw it. Even this time I was like, wait, what happens here? Does she have to grab it? What I just expected more. Like
Yeah,
and
the
it just
rabbit's
pops. It's
foot
just a
is like a
balloon.
red thing inside of a vial.
It's literally just like a water
Yeah.
balloon. Like, what? Wait, what? Anyway, she gets it. She pulls it out. She wraps it up. She gets shot at by guards.
Right.
She she figures out there's a gas line running throughout the whole entire lab. Does the wonderful thing of hiding around the corner and then running. Goes, hey guys, and they shoot and it blows up and she
Hmm.
runs out of there.
She escapes.
Yep. And this is where the like most jarring music, "No Man's Woman,"
Oh, well,
like
yeah.
it was like yeah, 90s or CW music over this action scene that was still going. I was like, this doesn't quite connect.
Well, it's like Captain Marvel, where it's like, I'm just a girl while she's punching people. Do you remember that
That
part?
worked. This did not.
I think it's sophisticated by Stereo MC.
But I think that's what they were going for.
Anyway, so she gets away. Back at Credit Delphine, Sloane gets a call, says, all right, send her in. And Sydney comes in with the device, presents it to Snow. I'm back. I'm taking the
Yeah.
week off. I've got midterms. And then does the classic spy thing of, all right, I'm in a crowd. I'm going to disappear as something goes in front of me.
Yeah, I'll never get sick of that. It's great.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And then we see her go into a building, says she needs to speak to the director, Mr. Devlin. And they're like, no, he's not available. Is that tell him he has a walk-in? And then we zoom out, and of course we see the giant CIA seal on the floor.
It's been a long time since we've seen that seal in one of our things.
That's actually true. You know, that's a fair point, but it's always there.
It's a good reveal, though.
Yeah, it is. It is a good reveal. We meet Vaughn, Agent Vaughn, who's bringing in food for Sydney. And hey, guess who else is in there? Greg Grunberg.
Yeah, I was going to say it if you didn't. He looks a lot younger here, too.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I guess they all do, except for Jennifer Garner, but...
Yeah. So Sydney is making a full write-up. She's writing pages and pages, and she's like, "Do you need anything? No, another pen. This one's dead." He says it could take weeks to verify her info. He says, "But you know, we could use another inside person in SD6," and like immediately, Sydney is like, "All right, one, either I'm already been verified, and that's why you're telling me about this other SD6, or two, you think I'm not." Actually, you know, a double agent, and so if I'm a triple, you're gonna send me back to my agency thinking that there's another double agent there that I can report on. And he's like, nope, I just have a good feeling about you. I've got a good instinct about you.
Yeah, right. I also immediately noticed that he said another double.
Oh yeah, I saw.
I assume you guys did as well.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Need any help with your teeth?" And she says she's all right. What?
She's got her own dentist, apparently.
He's like a dentist is ready to put all of her teeth back.
Huh.
I'm sure SD6 has a great dental plan.
Yeah, right?
I did not Google how exactly putting teeth in and out.
I mean, you get an implant. You wouldn't have your it'd be an implant.
If you do it in a very specific time frame, I believe you can shove it back in. It might not be the same. So, like when kids lose teeth early, they're told to like put the tooth back in if you still have it.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, the jaw will form incorrectly. So, they're like, if it gets knocked out, just shove it back in if you
Baby
can.
tooth. I don't want to talk about this. Anyway. I just thought that was funny. That she was like, "I got it."
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, she'll wear braces; they'll be fine.
Yeah.
She goes to visit Daniel's grave, and as she's laying flowers there, her father is behind her. He walks up, says he's very sorry about Daniel. She says, no, I want to be left alone. Nothing changes between you and I now that I know the truth about us. He reveals that he asked Devlin if he could be the one to tell her himself, which means that he's actually CIA, and they verified her statement. And he also said he appreciated her not naming him in all of her write-ups.
Which implies her answer to
Oh, that's why you brought that up.
Comes back.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Also, this scene has so much acoustic guitar.
Of course.
You know, all right, how am I supposed to trust you? Well, we're just going to have to learn to trust each other. And he gives her a phone, which rings, and she answers. And that's the end of our episode.
All right, so now it's time for our Spy Facts versus Fiction. Now, I admit this is not the greatest source. Top Tens with a Z, .net, by Heather Matthews. What does the CIA look for in a recruit? And the reason
Ah,
why I found this is because they said she fit the profile. And I
okay.
was like, well, what is the profile? And I couldn't find a profile, but I did find this.
All right.
What it said was 20% of new hires are from the mid career category if you guys are thinking about making a career change.
Hmm.
An undergraduate degree is not required, but is strongly recommended, and
All
higher
right.
is good too. They want the best in terms of academics. That's why they're found recruiting in America's most elite colleges. But they're not particular about what subject. Just do well in whatever subject you choose.
Interesting.
It says they like hiring people who have traveled or lived in foreign nations for long periods of time because they're
Hmm.
candidates who can immerse themselves in foreign cultures and pick up the nuances of cultural differences. Recruiters want candidates who have been drug free for at least a year. In the past, they had to be drug free for longer, but the rules have been relaxed. I thought it would be
Interesting.
longer than that. I thought it'd be like drug free your whole life.
So initially it was way longer, and then they truncated it to 10 years because of the equip, and then they truncated it to 7 years. And now because they can't find anyone who hasn't,
Mm.
they have basically been like a year or ish. So yeah, because of today's, they can't find candidates anymore who haven't partaken in anything.
Yeah, there's also
Yeah,
been a few news articles about like cybersecurity jobs, how everyone smokes weed so they can't find
yeah,
people.
yeah, 100%. This is why private sector gets all the people because they're like, I'm never passing this fucking test and I'm never passing the poly.
Mm. Okay, so that's one. The other one I have is Maine news. That's Maine, like the state. Maine
Okay.
news online. What do CIA agents tell their family? Everything you should know.
Interesting. All right.
So it says they can tell their spouse or loved ones. It doesn't specify which loved ones. Maybe that
Okay.
means like immediate family that they work for the CIA. But further inquiries into their job details are prohibited. They're not allowed to divulge what they did at work. Well, that makes sense. Job titles can be shared. For some lines of the work, you could say your geographical area, but not the exact area that you work in.
All right.
They can marry, according to the article, and have a married life will continue to do their job. The same rules that family members do apply for them. They're not allowed to disclose details of the job to their spouses. Now, here's the interesting part.
All
Same
right.
source. If a CIA agent becomes involved with a foreign resident
Uh-huh.
during their work abroad, that individual must pass both a background and polygraph test before even telling that they work for the CIA.
How do you facilitate that?
The article is not so clear.
It's the same thing when you go for security clearances. One of the questions is, have you had relationships
Right.
with foreign internationals and blah, 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 which then requires them to be brought in for a background, and which would entail an investigation of some sort into their background before you can
Uh,
fully commit to that whole rigmarole. But yeah, I mean, if you're going for certain clearances, it does require you to be like to answer properly of have you engaged in any foreign nationals? Have has any foreign national paid for anything on your
Right.
end? I mean, even the citizen's test to become a
Hmm.
citizen, that's one of the major questions.
yeah, so the fact that Danny has a British accent leads me to think that he's not a U.S. citizen, which
Ah.
maybe that's an assumption. He could be a dual citizen or whatever, but that would be even more next level why she shouldn't have told him without clearing it. And that's
Uh,
all for me.
like you, I was also curious about that. So I have a different source for that. I have an article by James Powell, who is a former CIA intelligence officer, who he wrote this article for SOFREP, military grade content, and it's top
Okay.
10 things that everyone gets wrong about the CIA regarding spouses. He says that if you are married or have a long term domestic partner, the agency requires that you tell your other half from day one.
Oh.
Yeah. Along with that, there are other reasons why you would be required to, or otherwise able to divulge your affiliation with the CIA. Not everyone at the agency is undercover, covert as he was. Some are overt and can and do listed on applications, resumes, etc.
What does he mean by day one? Like the first date?
Or seemingly, if you are already with them and you're applying.
If you're in a relationship,
Yeah.
When you DTR, that's what you have to tell him.
I was
sure.
also interested about their recruitment processes. So I actually went to the CIA's website on their hiring process. So
Uh-huh.
nowadays, rather than the old days of what I've heard about and read, where they recruit from on college campuses and everything. You apply online. I think it's actually on USA Jobs,
Mhm.
as is like the application to become an astronaut, which I found hilarious that there's both on USA Jobs. There's screening, testing, and interviews. If you pass that, you get a conditional offer of employment and SF-86 form. And then after that, you get your security and medical evaluations. After that, you get your official job offer and onboarding. And that's when you can get to actually work there. So there's a whole process, which is a lot less cloak and dagger than it used to be, which I find a little let down, but also a little kind of funny.
It's the initial portal
Hmm.
versus. So there are other factors that go into the whole process. It's just strictly. I mean, the CIA hosts job fairs.
Oh yeah, no, I've
Like an awesome town.
yeah, oh yeah, or they're at AwesomeCon. Yeah, no, that's true. All right, so what else I have about? I have from Wikipedia about hieratic and demotic, which are the scripts that
Okay.
Sydney thinks the notes are written in hieratic at first, but then Sloan corrects her. It's actually demotic or demotic, not
Demonic.
demotic,
Sounds
demotic.
like demonic.
It's 100% demonic because it's
Yeah,
heretic versus demonic,
yeah.
and it's just a very rare classical language.
It's the name that's given to a cursive writing system that's used for ancient Egyptian, and it's the principal script hieratic that's used to write that language from its development in the third millennium BC until the rise of Demotic in the mid first century BC. And Demotic was used, yeah, in the Nile Delta, and yeah, following that. And I looked at it, and it's interesting to look at for me because studied as a hobby. I studied a bit of like hieroglyphics, and you can see the evolution from the hieroglyphics to the hieratic. I was like, oh, I can actually recognize the shapes here. And then when you go to demotic, it becomes a bit more like oh wait, that's where that shape comes from. Not as clear, but it is interesting to see that.
Yeah, the progression is unique.
Yeah. And lastly, walk-in agents. So this is also from Wikipedia. A walk-in agent is an individual who voluntarily offers to conduct espionage. Specifically, a walk-in agent is an agent or mole of a government who literally walks into an embassy or intelligence agency without prior contact or recruitment.
I feel like we've had those in other episodes, but nothing is jumping to mind.
We may have talked about it back way early in what's the Robert Hansen movie?
Breach.
Breach. Yeah,
Hmm, maybe
they called out that if
he
he
was
was,
a walk-in.
it
Yeah,
was a walk-in.
No, what was the one where it was a Soviet guy and he went up to two American like tourists and was like,
Oh,
"Hey, can you put me in touch
the
with your embassy?"
courier.
The courier. Okay, excuse me.
Yeah, I guess he might have been a. Well, yeah, well, no, because that's not technically a walk-in because he like sent them information saying, "Hey, this is me." Like walk-ins,
he
literally, they
engaged.
walk into the embassy saying, "Hey,
Yeah,
I have
All
information."
right. Well, it was the closest I could think of.
yeah, he engages outside.
Anyway, so that's what I have for spy fact versus spy fiction. All right, so should we move on to our favorite quotes?
Yes, Jay, as our guest, would you like to go first?
No, I would like to hear your quotes first.
All right,
Okay, can I go first, Christian?
sure, sure.
I only had a few. I had "Hey guys," just because I thought it was so lame. You come up with anything better? You guys are professional Hollywood screenwriters. Similarly, when she says to her interrogator, "I am your worst enemy," that just sucked. It's my
Eh,
favorite because it was so bad. But what I
okay.
actually really did like was she says to Sloane, "You killed him," and he says, "No, you did." Like, yeah, it's a
I,
cliche, but it's a cliche that I like. Whatever.
When they're talking about Sydney's dad, and they say, "Unless you're talking about importing airline parts, that man's got nothing to say," which reminded me of Ethan Hunt's job, like boring job of being the traffic analyst. And like, oh, so I was like, once they said that, and they're trying to like set up, oh, that he's boring. It's like, no, he's definitely a spy, isn't he?
Obvious red herring.
Yeah, I did like the EMETIB. Now reverse it.
so classy.
Got when she says, "I have nothing to lose," and the security guard says, "That's not exactly true. You have teeth."
Also fantastic.
Good comeback, security guard.
Nice.
Lastly, when Sydney is returned, she's like, "I'm back. I'm taking the week off. I've got midterms."
Yeah, it's like, was that a joke or not? It's hard to say.
Well, it was her excuse to be not to be
Off grid,
unmonitored.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, my quote is going to be "Daddy."
Oh God.
That's why I wanted to be last.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was 100% Daddy. But like, yeah, because who's gonna ever surpass that? Because this is 2001, before Daddy's a thing.
Was it though?
Well, compared to
uh,
today's world, yeah.
uh,
You have ruined everybody's life.
Well,
God.
now. No, the other thing is
Oh.
when Bradley Cooper's like, "Do you want to get a couple extra laps in?" I want to get. I'm gonna go get a couple extra laps, and she's just like, "You just put your shirt on."
It was very awkward. All right, so now it is time for our ratings on a scale of 1 to 10 martinis, 1 being Avengers 1997 and 10 being even better than the pilot of Burnt Notice. How would we rate, truth be told, the pilot of Alias? Jay, you are our guest. Would you like to go first?
That title keeps throwing me off when you say it. Sorry, Jay. Go ahead.
Going to give it 3 bourbons into a drunk call, admitting that your future wife is a spy.
And getting yourself killed.
Yeah,
Out of
no,
10.
It's a
it's
lot
gonna
of
be 7.
bourbons.
It's gonna be 7.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
3 bourbons, which is really a 7 in quality, or 8
Uh,
in quality, I'd
I
say.
see. Okay. All right. All right. 7. Okay. Zach.
Like Chuck, I came in with no expectations at all. I knew
All right.
nothing about the show. And I'm trying to think what makes it jump out from the rest of the pack. So the reveal that she's working for the bad guys who killed her fiance, that was cool, but I didn't connect that much to Sydney as a character. I couldn't really tell what was going on behind the hood, so to speak. So like it wasn't bad. It just didn't grab me so much. I would not come back for the rest of the series. So I'm gonna give it a 5.5 out of 10.
All right. Interesting. Interesting. I think, yeah, I've seen most of the first season, but I don't remember a lot of it. I do remember enjoying it, but watching this episode, it did actually make me want to go and at least watch maybe the first, those first 2 seasons that Tom Cruise watched that made him say, "Hey, I want to give this guy a movie so he can basically do this on a big screen on a bigger budget." And with that, I enjoyed. I knew the twist already. I knew, yeah, that she worked for SD6
Mm-hmm.
and that SD6 was actually not, CIA. I had a feeling about the dead boyfriend. So I don't know if that there was necessarily any surprises, but it was still a fun ride that I enjoyed. I'm just gonna give this a 7.5 out of 10.
All right.
So before we end, can I ask Zach? You keep mentioning Chuck.
Right, because that was the episode we did before this one.
Okay, because this is 6 years before Chuck.
Right.
So the reason why I give it like an 8 is because it opened the doors to a lot of those other shows. It gives opened the doors to Pam Nikita. It gives the doors to Chuck. It gave all these extra like it was definitely different than a lot of other shows.
Wait, so you're giving it an 8 or a 7?
I'm gonna give it an 8.
All
It's
right,
fine.
bumping up that. All right.
Could we hear a 9? Could we hear a 9? Could we hear an 8.5?
I would not argue if someone said a 9.
Okay. I'm sure it's certainly a very influential show. It also reminded me a little bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. A lot of the ways you had your ass kicking female lead. We've seen spies get tied to chairs and tortured. We've seen spies shoot people. Seen them infiltrated. It's kind of like most of it was been there, done that. The stuff that was new was quite good, but there just wasn't enough of it.
That's a question for you, Zach, because I've noticed. Well, I remember in the beginning you were always harsher on things, and I was always more positive, and then you sort of mellowed down, you get more positive, and now you're back to being a lot more harsh on things. Have you watched too much spy stuff that now everything just seems the same, and you don't think anything stands out?
It's entirely.
Not just that. Do you just merge everything being produced at the exact same time?
Well, it is true that we've been looking at a lot of stuff around the same time period, 1999 through 2008. Right, this rerun summer has covered a lot of
This
that.
is true. It's like it wasn't intentional. We were going to cover all. We were just gonna. I just, picked a bunch of spy shows. But now looking forward to what we have coming up. Other than what was it, Gentleman Jack? What was it called? Is that
Jack of all trades, yeah. which I picked, not to claim credit or whatever, but
and James Bond Jr. Yeah, everything has been in that sort of mid 2000s or early to mid 2000s
I
period.
mean, this is when the height of like that whole interest was.
Oh
So.
yeah,
there was
oh
this
yeah,
spy craze going on at the time. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
matched only probably by the of the 60s, which is what we covered last summer.
that's right. Okay, Jay, do you have anything you would like to plug before we are on our way?
We have Tuesday night gaming. Come listen to Zach, myself, and others talk about various TV shows, current TV shows. Well, not right
Yeah,
now, current. They're current esque
yes,
TV
yeah.
shows and our love
Recently
hate
released, let's
while
say.
we play video games and have a good time. Sometimes yell at each other. And that's on twitch.tv MC/MC Slanty on Tuesdays if you want to listen to it live. Or you can listen to it on Tuesday Night Podcast on all the various things that you do.
You're also the co-creator of Feed Your Nerd, right?
Feature nerd with the webcomic comic Panoramic Enlightenment, as well as Tales of the Dice, which also entails the story is a comic detailing the story of the D&D campaign that Zach is part of.
And while I don't know much about that campaign, I am always entertained by that comic.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us, Jay. You're welcome back anytime. And thank you all to our audience for joining us. You can find us on social media at the Spy-Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Until next time, I'm Zach.
And I'm Christian.
And we are the Spy-Fi Guys, signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Spy-Fi Guys. If you enjoyed our podcast, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The theme song from this podcast is Mistake the Getaway by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Films, books, and television shows reviewed by our podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended.
This is a personal podcast. Any views, statements, or opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the participants. They do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the participants may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.
You can find our podcast on social media at The Spy-Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.